after experiencing this ridicule, I thought, right, okay, actually before I say this, with every sighting or encounter that I had, and it's still the same to this day, I would have a prior knowledge of the event, which comes in several forms. Physically, my body reacts to their presence. My left ear very often rings, a very loud, high-pitched ring, not at all like tinnitus, much higher. It's almost like someone with a speaker against your ear, and they're playing a very high-pitched whine. Sometimes, or on a few occasions, it's been so unpleasant and so physically affecting me that I almost vomit. More often, the other physical reaction I have is my solar plexus becomes really tight, and adrenaline starts rushing around my system, and the best way I have to describe it is like saying that you're going to the most important interview of your life. That's how it feels. And this feeling would stay with me until I actually carried out the interaction that was being stimulated, I guess. I would become increasingly nervous until I followed what was occurring mentally, which was, most of the time, an intuitive knowing that there was an object in the area. I would know where it is, when it will appear physically, if it's not already physical, how many objects are involved, and sometimes even the beings, the kind of beings that are coming. I'd have a kind of almost empathic feeling towards them, whether they're coming in with love or not. Other than that, sometimes I would also hear a voice, not my own, that would tell me to look at a certain part of the sky, or to go to a particular wood, or somewhere discreet in the landscape for a UFO encounter event, which always happened. And these feelings, physical and mental, I would follow implicitly, like it was something I was kind of meant to do. Not by force, but something deep within me, a feeling of, by following this, by responding, I was fulfilling some purpose, a purpose relating to my life. Now, once I experienced the ridicule and became aware that I was having these feelings, prior knowledge of an event, I thought, right, I'm going to try and grab as many witnesses as I can with each time I feel these things. And I did this very successfully on a number of occasions, and perhaps the best one was in 1977, while in a classroom full of children and a teacher. It was a geography lesson, and it was middle of the afternoon, clear blue skies, a few clouds, and I heard a voice telling me to look at a certain part of the sky. I then took the risk of shouting at the whole classroom to look at this area of sky. The object hadn't become visible yet, but as they all rushed over, including the teacher, we saw a metallic disc, I guess about 30, 40 feet in diameter. It's a bit hard to be precise, but it was no more than a quarter mile away from us, fly out of a cloud, across clear blue sky for a few seconds, perhaps 10 maximum, into another cloud where it didn't re-emerge. This kind of left the classroom in a state of shock. The teacher sort of went back to her chair and carried on with the lesson as if nothing had happened. A few children couldn't stop talking about it. But this object apparently flew on several miles to another school and landed behind a wood, and was witnessed by several teachers and some children, and was in the newspapers a few days later. Now, this event very much helped me to feel that I wasn't alone, because one thing you do feel very strongly as a contactee experiencing close encounters of the first to the fourth kind, by third kind events which I have experienced on more than one occasion, contactees and abductees very often feel tremendously alone, basically because we are living in an environment of socially of non-acceptance. And I'm really talking outside of this room. But as I said earlier, this is changing, and for the good. My family also were initiated to what was happening. My stepfather apparently had a UFO event with several people before I came into his life, so he was already open. My brother was initiated because every time I felt their presence, I drew his attention to it, so he witnessed a number of things. My mother's reaction was abject fear, and there's one occasion that really sticks in my mind vividly, involving an object that was no more than a quarter of a mile away from us in broad daylight, pacing the car. It was metallic, disc-shaped with a dome, and we were crossing a forest, and we'd come to like a clearing, and on the left-hand side of us was a large grassy sort of moorland area. And this object, just before it appeared, I had an instruction to look at this area of sky, and I told my brother and my stepfather, and then the object appeared, and they were both very impressed. But my mother just panicked, and it was very hard to even get her to look at it, and I even went as far as holding her head and pointing her at it. But she still couldn't see it, apparently, and I think she did actually see it, but she didn't want to look at it. Now there's my mother did some things in my childhood as I was growing up that were kind of strange at the time, but when I put them all together, it very much suggested that she had some form of close contact. But one day, she took me into a bookshop. I walked straight up to an area full of books and pulled out a book without even looking, like she knew what she was doing and where she was going. Handed it to me, said nothing, went and paid for it and left. And I assumed that she was just buying this for herself and that she would ask for it back once I got outside. And my brother and I also wouldn't receive sort of gifts outside birthday and Christmas, so I thought, well, she's buying it for herself. But she never asked for it back, and I, after a day or two, decided to read it, and it turned out to be a book all about close encounters, or particularly one event that a policeman experienced in New Mexico, a very well documented case. Now, reading that also helped me a lot. I was 11 at the time, to learn that I wasn't alone, that there were many people in the world who were experiencing these kind of things.